Is busy work better than no work at all? That's what I'm going to talk about today on my drive home from the gym. So, I've been avoiding the work that needs to be done because any other work is not the most efficient, not the most effective work. It's not moving the needle. It's not the single constraint as to why we're not where we need to be. But by doing that, I have developed this avoidance behavior which has stopped me being able to work in a lot of ways. I've just been too focused on it. It's not the one thing. Like, what's the point in doing anything if it's not the one thing? And so this got me thinking, there are other things on the to-do list that could be super lucrative, it could really work, could be fantastic, but it's a more risky play in terms of time, effort, likelihood of succeeding than what we're doing right now. Moving forward with the business, we have just recovered, / are still recovering from a significant bet where we were doing the one thing, but we weren't able to do it as efficiently, as effective as possible. So what that looked like is we hired a sales team of 10 guys to replicate the sales system that we have and we know works. So to give you some insight, this wasn't just a random thing we pulled out of our arses. Up until this point, we'd had about 700 or 800 sales come through this process. We'd had about 8 staff that we trained and hired and taught to do the system, and had worked. It had worked, it hadn't worked perfectly, so we revamped the system and tried to make it better. Now, this third attempt was the worst of all. We lost about 100 grand, wasted a ton of time, and then I've spent the last 5 to 6 months or so cleaning up the financial mess that was left over. So now we're out of the hole and we could just increase leverage. This is what I'm planning to do. Increasing the leverage of my time, and by upping the prices and just taking a couple sales calls a day so that I don't get too tired, I don't get too burnt out. It's really easy and we should make good money. And we've got a couple of guys on the sales team who will also do this, and it will mean that we make the most money we ever make doing the least work we've ever done. But the difficulty we have with this is it's evening work in the UK and I'm moving to the other side of the world, which means, well, on Monday moving to Dubai, so that's going to put my evening work even further into the evening by 3 or 4 hours, which makes it too late. Like, I'm just not willing to do it. I've done silly hours like that, I'm not willing to do it again. It's a non-negotiable, and yeah, call me a bitch, but I'm there. Okay, so from Dubai, I'm going to be there for a week and then heading to Thailand. Now heading to Bali. Bali is the absolute worst time zone for this because work would start at 11 PM, which is just way too late. Not starting work at 11 PM and finishing at like 5 AM. Screw that. This is en route to Australia, where we would actually be able to catch the last 2 or 3 hours of the day if we started work at about 5 AM, which I am willing to do. So that is the plan this year, is to move to Australia, to do 2 to 3 hours first thing in the morning, 5 days a week, and make the most money we've ever made. Fantastic. The issue that we've got is we don't have our visa yet, so we can't enact the plan and we don't know how long it's going to take. It could come through tomorrow or it could take up to about 6 months. So sitting around, sitting on your hands is kind of boring and sucks, frankly. So what am I going to do in the meantime? Now, rather than doing nothing, I am toying with the idea of trying to delegate that task sooner, with expecting slightly lower results, but as long as it's working, cool, leave it. But also just spending my time on this other avenue. I'm thinking of making content so that we've got more social proof, more organic searchability, even cheaper leads, all that sort of stuff, which will increase what we're doing right now. But more than anything, it's just something to do. Honestly, like, I'm bored for a lot of the day. I feel without lack of direction, and I'm kind of beating myself up. And I think that doing some work maybe even you could call this busy work. I don't think it is. I think it's tangential work, but it's not the one thing, but it could become the one thing. I'm thinking it's a better shot than doing nothing. Now, it's not the perfect solution, but I don't see any harm giving it a go, and it's better than sitting there doing nothing. So I'd be really intrigued to see if anyone else has ever had a situation like this, or has worked with or knows of other people in similar situations, and what they've managed to do. Because at the end of the day, like, I want to get to my goal the fastest possible, but that's all I've focused on for the last 5 years, and honestly, it sucked all the fun out of it, because I've just lost too many times. I've had taken too many hits, and it's kind of created like an anxiety around it, and I'm just not living my best life. And the single biggest risk to all of business and eventually succeeding is quitting. And I'm so on the edge of quitting right now, and just in quitting life generally, that it doesn't seem sensible to keep chasing that one thing for that one singular outcome if I'm not enjoying the journey as well. I'm really happy to put a grind in. I'm really happy to do things that aren't the most fun, and all this sort of stuff, but I want to win every once in a while, and if I can't, then I've got to make sure that the rest of my life is fun too. But where I've sacrificed pretty much all of the rest of my life, I'm only left with the one failure, or the one thing that hasn't worked yet. And I still think we've got the best system we've ever built, but we're still missing a couple of pieces. It still hasn't all clinked together. And once we do, you know, we'll be the overnight success. We'll be the overnight millionaires, and you know, everyone will say, "Oh, you must be so lucky." Like, "Oh, it's all right for you." And yeah, but you don't see the 95% of the iceberg that's underneath the sea, right? So yeah, I'd be super intrigued if anyone's ever had a similar situation, or just got any thoughts of whatsoever. I'd be intrigued to hear them. And if you are going to give me your thoughts, and I don't know who you are, give me your credentials. Why should I listen to you? Not tooting my own horn like this much, but this is my third company. We've hired almost 200 people. I've had a 6-figure physical retail store, a 7-figure e-commerce brand and manufacturing food business, and this is my first online service business, which we're approaching 7 figures, and once we crack this, it will be our first 8-figure company. And so I've spent a lot of time and money learning these lessons, and focusing my efforts on the right thing is one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned. And that's why this discussion, this thought process is so counterintuitive and painful for me to talk through, and it's taken me months to come to the conclusion of, like, just do something else, because it's better than me wallowing in self-guilt that I can't get out of bed because I've got nothing to go and do, and then I end up just like playing computer games all day, and then I just feel crap, and I have loads of negative self-talk, and like, I don't want that anymore. I'd rather be doing something and making progress somewhere. And I think when analysing the entire history of my life, whenever I have had a thing that I'm doing regularly, like school, university, a job, when the company's, you know, I've got stuff to do, it actually gives you more freedom to think and do other things. And if you are, I think success is multiplicative. I think Ed Sheeran talked about this really beautifully, that good consequences and bad consequences happen in like dominoes or in spirals. And so when he was talking about getting in shape, it was really easy for him because he just decided to stop drinking beer. That was the one thing. And then because he wasn't drinking beer, he was like, well, that means I'm not going out because I've just chosen not to drink beer, or I've come back and I don't feel like trash, so I'll get up early. Oh, well, now I'm up early, I've got stuff to do, I might as well, you know, go for a walk, go to the gym, you know, do the things you want to do. And one good thing leads into the next, which is actually where my theory of treating life like a game, and when you hit a pivotal milestone, treating yourself with something that's going to accelerate it to the next one. I think that's a lovely idea, and something I try to do as much as possible. But on the flip side, it happens the same thing in a negative spiral. where you're like, oh, well, I didn't get to the gym today like I was going to, so I'm gonna eat out, I'm gonna order that pizza. Oh, I don't care. I'm just gonna stay up all night. Like, I'm gonna, I don't know. These things go on. That's not my life really, so I'm struggling to talk about it. But the negative things are easy to do. You know, like, I've ruined my day, so I might as well carry on, essentially, rather than thinking, especially in dieting, rather than thinking of a cheat day, you can think of a cheat meal, because sometimes some people fall off the bandwagon one meal and they're like, oh crap, I ruined this, I accidentally went over one meal, so now I'm just going to slam the entire day, which might put you at like 8,000 calories for the day, whereas in that one meal you might have only gone 500 calories over, and you've just absolutely nuked any progress for the last 10 to 12 days, which is less than ideal. And so what I'm thinking, and I had a little chat with Jarvis, my GPT, earlier about this, with the thought of this video of saying, is busy work better than no work at all? And it basically came to the same conclusion that I did, in that if it's on the right stuff, if you're not avoiding the hard work, as long as you are not procrastinating, then generally it's a good thing to do, because it can re-spark momentum, and it can give you momentum to do the other things, or in a business sense, it might stop you messing up the other aspects of your business that are working, which a friend of mine has a real problem with, is sticking to the thing that does work. And in my case, it would allow us to continue doing that without breaking it, making the money that we need to make to feel safe, and then it might also create something new and better. So those are my thoughts, and that's where I think I'm at. And so I might just throw some shit at the wall and see what sticks. But there you go, those are my thoughts on my drive home from the gym. If you've also got some comments and interest about what you think about this style of video, where I'm very busily doing something else and just free ranting what's in my brain, I'd be intrigued too, because if that works out good, this is a really easy way for me to do this. And now I'm going to ramble at you for another 5 or 6 seconds while I pull into park. So yeah. Oh, a fox. A big fox. That is the second one I've seen this week on our road, which is a very residential road. So that is a bit bizarre. Alright guys, so that's the end of it. What do you think? Is busy work better than no work at all? I'd love to know your thoughts. Thanks so much for the time. Catch you later. Peace.